Hello, my name is Amanda. I'm here with The Breeze at Scripps College in the Hampton Room. We're here for the Nasty Women's Forum. It's going to be very informative. I'm really excited. Let's go. We're here with the Breeze, and we're just doing we're not doing video for the next year because I think that's interesting. And our professor really pushed it on us, and I really have enjoyed the book so far, and I can't wait to finish continuing it. I was just wondering if you guys just briefly introduce yourselves just for a second.
Sure. I'm Kate Harding. I'm one of the co-editors of the book.
Yeah, Samhita Mukhopadhyay. I'm co-editor of Nasty Women.
Carina Chocano, and I contributed an essay.
So I do have a question. Since the book, you do talk about intersectionality a lot, and I do realize that, and that is a term that's just recently been thrown around. I've recently just heard this semester. So I want to know, there was a professor that was talking about how women don't have a mascot and they don't have many faces. And in your essay, I did read it did feel that way, that Hillary may not have one, even though I did vote for her. She may not have one because I felt like, maybe she didn't represent everyone. And she was being put down and just she was trying to be someone else. And then when she was that, she was that, So my question is how important do you think intersectionality is for this new wave of feminism?
I think it's fundamental to this new wave. I actually think it's fundamental to every wave of feminism. And if you look back at history with an intersectional eye, you'll notice that there were feminist actors in every kind of culture and geography that may not have been recognized as part of a wave of feminism, right? So I think it's absolutely crucial, and I think it's central. I think that finally the media is catching up to this question of diversity, maybe not intersectionality per se, but at least understanding that, or recognizing that people want diverse representation. And I agree, I think Hillary was between a rock and a hard place in that people expected her to be everything they wanted her to be. They wanted to relate to her in every way possible, and that's just not fair for, I think it's always been understood that a presidential election, you have to make certain negotiations because no one's going to be the perfect candidate.
Yeah, and I was talking with a woman earlier, and I talk about this a lot, that for those of you who are younger who kind of, when you became aware of who the president is or why it matters, that was probably Obama. And I mean, you would have known who the president was when you were little, but that you lived through 8 years of Obama with a president that we all had such warm feelings to. I mean, even if we criticized what he did, he was this super charismatic figure and a figure who made people feel like a part of something. And so there's an expectation there that I never had when it was when I was growing up, the president is some white guy who's gonna, do some stuff, and the premise was that he's not gonna monstrously embarrass us or let American citizens die like the one we've got now, but it was always just an old white guy versus an old white guy, or maybe a slightly younger white guy. So I never had that feeling of I actually want to relate to my president. I want to have a beer with him. And I think for a lot of younger people who were maybe voting for the first time in this election, there was that feeling of I can't really get warmed up for Hillary Clinton, and it's yeah, but that doesn't matter. Voting for president is not about that. I don't know if you think it should be or if it was. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's, sure, in a perfect world, it'd be great if it could be. I'd love for Beyonce to run. I don't know, that'd be cool, but I'd be excited,
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, she's better at the presidency than Trump is.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But she's FEMA now, so.
Yeah.
So given the fact that you did say that this is maybe a new form of feminism, a fourth wave, what do you want this essay to represent for the up-and-coming feminists?
I want this anthology to represent that there are so many voices that are important to listen to within feminism, and that people have different stories, different identities, different priorities, and none of that necessarily makes you a good person or a bad person. Like, and that any movement needs people focusing on different things, where we're always going to need people who are out there just doing it every day for reproductive justice, and people who are out there working every day for, universal daycare, that kind of thing. And that you may have a whole other, you may have various issues that don't overlap, but there are lots of points of connection where I think the cults of personality and the demand for purity and the soundbite culture and the Twitter culture and all of that discourage us from saying, like, okay, we don't have to agree 100%. We can just say, how do we both go in that direction together?
And I would also add, like, a lot of times these things are framed as disagreements that are not disagreements, but that are just a focus or an experience. So in all the waves of feminism, you've had women working within the system to change things. You've had divisions, in the first wave, in the second wave, in the third wave. There's always been divisions, and people have focused on different things, like, and their methods have differed. I mean, some people were all about passing legislation. Some people were all about more performative, with like staging demonstrations or getting the, publishing or like whatever. So just there isn't one agenda. I think the idea of like define feminism. What is it? What is it? This is it. This isn't it. It's not about that. It's like women and all women deal with sexism. All women have to, as well as other, prejudices, but fundamentally we all have that. And there are so many different things to address, and there's so many different ways to address them that I think that's what we're all engaged in. Even if we're different and have different focuses.
Okay, so this last question is for each of you ladies. To be a nasty woman, to be a nasty woman, it's quote unquote to be outspoken. So my question is what is one of the most outspoken statements or demonstrations you've done that you feel like considered to be nasty or a nasty woman?
I mean, when I was 15, I shaved my head and like committed myself to Riot Girl, and my mom was like, why did we come to this country? and that was like my first statement where I was like, I'm not just an Indian daughter, like I'm my own person and I will not be arranged in a marriage. She was like, we've never even talked about that. I'm just letting you know now that will not be happening down the road.
That's great.
So maybe that was my first and nastiest.
And now I want to point out that she's in her late 30s and keeps talking about, I just cut off all my hair.
Yeah.
So, she has just practically bald again. Yeah, I think for me, one of the things was when I started blogging, I knew I wanted to get into, I was reading a lot of feminist blogs, including Feministing, where Samhita was, knew I wanted to be a part of that circle, one in kind of my own angle, and I had been reading a lot about fat politics, which, had been completely new to me, and I decided to start writing about it even before I completely figured out what I thought about it, and started to write about being fat in a fat-heading culture as a site of oppression, and as something that we need to be more serious about in terms of social justice, in terms of the way that we talk about fat people, the way that we talk about food, both because you can trigger eating disorders and just because it's cruelty. And so beginning to talk about that and identifying as someone and being vulnerable enough to say, like, this hurts and it's not just like sticks and stones, this is something that has messed me up for my entire life. I was really afraid that what I was going to get, I did get a lot of people just being like, well, then go on a diet, fatty. But I was afraid my own family and friends would be like, no, I don't really get this. And for the most part, they were incredibly receptive to it. So it felt like, but that was a big leap for me emotionally.
I guess for me, it's just always been writing or talking at all and noticing reactions, like being 15 in a car full of boys and like having some strong opinion about a song and having them like get angry. Like just stop the conversation and be like, what? Like we're talking about this song and I'm adamantly hating it and like explaining why and nobody likes it. You know, like, or these boys don't like it. Or my boyfriend doesn't like it. You know, so like that kind of thing I think has always been, but it took me a really long time to understand what was happening. I just didn't get it. I was like, I like you because of your musical tastes and your opinions. Like, I thought that's why you liked me, and I thought that's what we were doing together. And it took so long to understand because I was really naive that way, I guess. And just so even writing, for me, writing my book was also a big process because I had just when I first thought about doing it, I just had my first child and I had lost a job, and I thought, I better not do this. Like, what if I can't find another job? You know, what kind of trouble am I going to get into? And it was actually put it aside for several years, and I have to say, like, I was, you know, not brave enough to like not pick it up again until I felt a little bit more secure about how it would be received. Because I thought that even 7 years ago, it felt like a dangerous thing to do. So I think just awareness of that and the fact that that's how we have to live and these are the things that we have to consider is pretty, you know, mind-blowing.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I just want to say that you guys are an inspiration, and I really am very appreciative and grateful to have met you ladies. And I just hope you guys keep it up. You know, I hope I could like be you, like, you know, 10 years from now.
You
Thank you.
Thank you.
You inspire me.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
What do you want your world to look like? What do you want it to be? Do you know that the world has two sides and nobody is free? Did your mama come from Mexico? Papa come from Palestine? Sneaking all through Syria, crossing all the borderlines. Let other people in. Listen to your women. Stop killing black children.